tweet prepared. So are you back on Twitter?
Yeah, I found that what was it? I was, like, trying to go all in on Blue Sky because I
Mhm.
felt like it was at a tipping point where everybody was gonna join. And then I feel like somebody, and I wanna say maybe it was even Ryan Florence, was, like, posting on Twitter only, and, like, he had some really good tweets or that it sparked a bunch of conversation. I was like, "Dang it, I can't leave. Everybody's still over here." And so at the end of the day, I'm just like, I'm gonna go where the people are, and I feel like some people are straddling and some people are only on Twitter. So you gotta pick Twitter, you know?
Okay, let's see how this goes. Yeah, it's I there's parts of X that I do not like. Um but it's kind of like what you're saying, you just kind of have to go where the community is. And
Yeah.
I feel like well, I mean, Blue Sky kind of experienced that too, right? Like there was a huge shift where people are like, "Oh, we're gonna go over here. Come on, come on." And then it was like they swung back to X or Twitter. And then I feel like there's another resurgence recently where they're like, "No, really, over here." And then I feel like people have slowly creeped back over. So
Yeah. I feel the same way.
I
Gotta
just
stay. And
I
I'm okay with that. I have a bigger audience on Twitter. I just
yeah.
used to it, but it's so crappy. Like there's so much
I
junk and spam.
think the thing that's, like, unsettling to me is just, like, all of this kind of splintered the audience because now some people really are over on Blue Sky or Mastodon or wherever, or Threads. So I hate that everybody's not all in the same place. Yeah, spam has gotten terrible. I've gotten so many bots over the last, like, I don't know, 6 months. It's, like, ridiculous. Um
Yeah.
Just people I don't know. I keep DMs open just because I think that's part of the value is being able to have conversations with people, but then I get all kinds of, "So and so added you to a private chat.
Mhm. Mhm.
Will you look at my Bitcoin?" Just or people just saying, "Hey." I'm like, "I don't mind strangers messaging me, but please just say more than 'hey,' because, like, I don't even know what the like, just say what you
No, and
want."
yeah, I've started to ignore that kind of stuff
Yeah, I
too.
do too, and I feel
And
bad
people
because 'cause I'm
are
like, if
they're
it's a
not
legit
being
person.
yeah. Yeah, they're just it's like a soft opening, but just get to it, you
Mhm.
know? I'm bringing up, Michael Jackson's tweets about the late like, some remix B3 stuff that has
Mm.
some things that he said has got my wheels turning about what it could be, and I wanna talk about that today.
Oh, man. Well, we can go ahead and get started if you want, because I have things that I wanna talk about too, so it's
Yep,
gonna be a
let's do
good
it.
one for all 4 people that are listening right now. Oh, good. Okay, let me get the music. Um, there we are. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Compressed FM, a podcast all about web design and development with a little bit of zest. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about the state of state in React.
Web development and design, who would have guessed? Well, we can do them both, even add a little zest. So turn up the volume, get ready for the best. Let's get it started in this episode of Compress.
Hello, my name is Amy Dutton. I'm a lead maintainer on the Redwood.js core team.
Hey, y'all, my name is Brad Garapi, and I'm a senior systems engineer, still getting used to that weird title, at Cloudflare.
See, the long titles are so hard. I still feel like I stumble over lead maintainer on the Redwood.js core team.
Well, just senior like, systems engineer, that to me, that sounds like almost like a firmware position, not just like a
Mm.
software position. Just
Yeah,
call me like
I
a web developer if that's what I am, but Cloudflare does a lot of interesting stuff. It's not just
uh-huh.
building web apps, a lot of
Right.
infrastructure there.
I can't even remember my title when Tom officially ran everything. It was like super strange. Oh, I don't. Oh, hold on.
Good start to the show, an unexpected doorbell ring. And it might be
Uh, my son is doing middle school orientation, so he just got back. Okay, so what was I saying? Yeah, I can't even remember what my official title was with Tom, but because they were primarily a venture capital company, it was like some weird title because it was in line with venture capital. It really didn't sound techy at all.
yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know, what would it be if it was in line with
Oh,
venture capital, you know,
let
like
me look. Let me look it up. It wa it's terrible. Let
like
me
a
see.
technologist,
No,
technology strategist.
no, it was something even more vague and weird than that.
Nice.
Oh man, I should have prepared for this. Let's see. I don't even what was it? I was trying to see if I could find my paperwork. I might have to come back to this.
This one I
I have
think
to edit this
is my
part
weirdest
out.
title. Yeah. This one is my weirdest title, but I'm just like, uh, sometimes I just make my title wherever I want it to be on my resume, but I'm like, I'm clinging to this one for some reason, I don't know why.
Um, I think titles don't always describe very well what you do.
No,
So,
like, everybody at the company is called a systems engineer, which is
oh, really?
interesting. Yeah, yeah,
That when I worked at one job and my boss told me, he was like, "Just go ahead and claim art director." But it was like, ba by the company standards, I could not be a director or have director in my title because that meant I
sure,
had to be a certain level and making a certain amount of money. But to everybody else outside of the company, it made far more sense.
yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
I'm not
it
gonna find this.
speaking about Cloudflare, we had a pretty cool, like, presentation this morning from somebody from Anthropic. Megan Choi came in, she's the lead designer of, Claude
Ah,
Code,
interesting.
and so she came in and taught us all about, like, how to maximize, our usage and experience with Claude Code, which I was really excited about, but then, of course, they pulled the rug out from under us a little bit. I was like, "How do I get into this Claude Code,
Uh,
beta or pilot or whatever?" And they're like, "We haven't opened it up yet. Sorry, just use Windsurf." So I wasn't able to try it yet at work with the full license and everything. But in the presentation, she had said some cool things that I wasn't aware of. Um, mainly
what?
around mainly around the Claude.md files. Do you know that they actually have like a hierarchical relationship with one another and you can have more than one?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So, like, imagine if you had a monorepo and, like, you had a claw.md file at the top, then you had one in every repo, and then one in, like, subdirectories, and they treat that relationship as hierarchical and look down the deeper they go.
Interesting.
Pretty cool. And another thing I learned was that, like, while you don't have to directly provide context to Claude Code because it just, like, it knows your directory structure and has access to your file system, um, you can still kind of inject additional context, and the window is huge, apparently.
Hmm. Interesting. I did find the title, Developer in Residence. It's the in
Weird.
residence part that sounds funny because to me that sounds like an apprentice. But the in residence has to do with venture capital.
Huh. What does it mean in regards to venture capital?
I don't know. That's just how people in venture capital companies talk. They're like in residence. I don't know. I asked about it because I wasn't crazy about it.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's kind of, yeah.
well, to go from like director of design to developer in residence or designer in residence, it was like not.
Eh,
This sounds like a huge step
you
back.
took an internship after that, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. To do the job that I was telling people how to. I mean, it's just
Yeah, yeah,
strange.
yeah.
Sorry, that was probably anticlimactic. But, no, so I need to dig a little bit more into Claude rules. For a while, Windsurf, had released workflows, And I
Yeah.
created several workflows around that, which was really interesting. But I think one of my favorite things about AI is when I'm like, how do I create this rules file? You can ask AI to create it for you. And you just say, like, ask me questions about what you need to be able to write this file that I want you to write. So in my mind, I figure what better way to write an AI file than to get AI to tell me what they need for that file.
Yeah. Yeah, and they say, like, use AI to generate the first version of it, and then go in there and change things as needed, get
Mhm.
more
Yeah.
specific, correct any
Yep.
mistakes, that kinda stuff.
Yep. Yep. We need to look at that. I know we have vibe rules that we need to modify and tweak a little bit, but yeah, it's getting better and better. So,
Yeah, I still just don't think it's to the point where it's a silver bullet just
oh
yet.
no.
Like, I'll ask questions and stuff, and I'm just like, "Oh, really far off the mark. You're just not gonna get there." And maybe I suck at prompting, or maybe we haven't set things up the way they need to be set up, but I'm just like, I can do this faster
Yeah.
still, but
Yeah.
I haven't really built up that ecosystem yet because I was primarily living in this VS Code, GitHub Copilot, like chat window mode for the
Mhm.
longest time, or inline edits, which is like much more scoped down. But as the scope of the tools get bigger, where you're talking about a whole project or something like that, or implementing a whole feature, you really have to have all these rules files and stuff in place
Yep.
to get the results you want. Otherwise, it's not going to be close.
One of the things that drives me crazy that would be awesome if there was a way to get around this is in some ways you almost want to go into agent mode so that it will automatically expand its own context that it needs and it can grab the files that it wants. But I don't want it driving. I don't want it making all those changes. So I
That's
feel
why
like I
plan
need to
mode is kind of
stay.
cool.
Yeah, I need to do more with that. I created a few things this weekend and was in windsurf, and it was like doing all these things, and it created that plan mode document, and
Yeah.
then it would
Yeah.
check things off as it did it, which was pretty cool. Um, but anyways, again, that's still like it driving, right? It's saying, okay, I'm going to do these things, and I'll update the plan document as it goes. Whereas I just wanted to be able to get access to the files it needs, but not totally take over the driving. Like, let me stay at the wheel.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so
Um,
needless to say, I haven't dove into it very much. Windsurf, I kinda shrugged it off. I'm waiting for the
yeah.
Claude code. I think it's gonna be better.
Yeah. I wanna get more comfortable in that terminal experience because right now, most of the stuff that I'm using is all within Cursor. So
I found out what the VS Code extension for Claude Code actually does.
okay.
It doesn't, like, fully integrate it. Basically, what it
Oh,
does is it hooks into VS Code to know, like, what files you have open, so it'll automatically add them to context, or
yeah.
what, text you have highlighted, so it'll automatically add it to context. It's just kind of gleaning things out of your IDE.
Oh,
It's not
okay.
really adding any new functionality into VS Code. It doesn't give you
Got
a
it.
UI for the CLI tool, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. One thing that is interesting about Windsurf is it has a browser
Yeah,
that you can
yeah.
use, either it can grab research, it can grab screenshots and things like that, but I still haven't gotten to the point where I'm really using it for UI, and some of it's just because I still feel so much more efficient just doing it myself.
Yeah.
There have been a few times where I'm like, "This width isn't working the way that I want it to, what's wrong?" And it's helped me there, but other than that, I don't know, just easier to do it yourself. Okay, so Claude, I guess it's Claude, because it's all within Cursor, taught me something the other day that I've been coding React for, I don't know, 6 years. I'm kind of making up an arbitrary number, but I think it's right. But it was telling me to do things that I didn't even know were things. So I share this one because I say you can be a senior level front end developer and still accomplish the job with the tools that you have and not know that there's other functionalities or other features. But also, when you are coding out a library, you're having to reach for things that most people don't necessarily have to reach for because you're trying to think of all these different use cases. Someone might need to use those components. So, I've been working on a component library, and the reason is because with Redwood SDK, we've been doing some stuff with ShadCN, and all of that is built on top of Redux, which Redux is an awesome open source library. It handles a lot of the accessibility issues that you run into when you're creating components. It's owned by the WorkOS team, but they've kind of fallen to the wayside a little bit in terms of management or not management, but just updates. And it's been interesting because online people have said, hey, nobody's updating this library. And I feel like WorkOS kind of came back and were like, no, we're making updates. And I felt like I saw some movement on their end, but there has
Shan was
been
releasing some videos, I
yeah.
think.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. So it's like, okay, I see them responding to this. I see that they're trying to improve things and fix bugs. But then there was a bunch of other people that were like, hey, go check out Base UI. And like Shad even had posted on his X account, I'm watching Base UI. Like, just keep doing what you're doing, but just know I'm watching Base UI. And so at work, we were talking about, well, let's see if we can maybe adopt Base UI and the things that we're doing. But again, we still ran into issues with Base UI. So I thought, why do we have to be dependent on these? And part of my problem when I'm working with Shad is the fact that really it's just a wrapper for Radix. And so I don't always know what's happening under the hood. And then you're having to compare the documentation between Shad and Radix because Shad doesn't bring in all the props and all the attributes that you get with Radix. So it's like, well, what's really happening? So I was thinking, well, why not? This is my developer brain, right? Why not just make it myself? And so I started trying to create these components. And the fun part is, I'm like, I know how these components work. I know exactly like what is happening. And so when I reach for them, I know how to style them, how to tweak them. And it has been a huge like learning opportunity for me. So I don't know if we talked about the Dia browser a few weeks ago,
Oh,
but
no, we didn't.
so I've
Dia really
struggled.
wasn't a thing a few weeks ago, I feel
Okay,
like.
perfect. So I'm gonna tie all this in. I found the perfect use case for Dia because I'm a huge Arc supporter. I love Arc. I'm still in Arc day to day. But what I was doing with Dia was I would open up ShadCN's documentation, Radix documentation, Base UI documentation, and Tailwind.
Ooh.
And then I was talking to Dia and saying, okay, help me compare all of these different libraries. What is this component doing? So I would compare the accordion component across like 4 or 5 different libraries and figure out what props do I need to pull in? What am I trying to do? So that was like learning thing one of, oh, I
Mhm.
finally found a use case for Dia. Like I really want to be able to talk and compare and contrast without having to do all this manual work myself. So that was awesome. The second thing is what's interesting with a lot of these component libraries is they have almost like I'm going to call it a component type structure. So like, for example, with um, Shad, you have an accordion component, and inside you'll have another component called accordion trigger. And inside, you'll have
Yeah,
another
yeah.
component called accordion content. And so you really have to know their language and how they're creating all these different components. Well, a lot of times when I'm creating my own components for different projects and things like that, I'll pass in props. It's like, well, why would I need to have an accordion header or accordion trigger component inside if I just want to pass in a bunch of text? The reason is because it's a little bit more flexible if you can have those component pieces. And so when I was working on the component library, I thought, well, I'm going to respect these patterns. Well, when you do that, yes, it gives you more flexibility, but there's a lot of other use cases that you have to take into consideration. So, for example, the avatar component is one of the most complicated components because you have an avatar wrapper, and then inside you have a fallback, and then you also have like the actual avatar image. And so, trying to figure out did the image load to know whether I should use the fallback or not is actually pretty complicated. And it's like,
Huh.
this is why they've abstracted all of this logic and hidden it. So even though I've been creating and writing React all this time, there's two main things that I learned that I've just like really honed. So I've used context before. That was one. So Brad, you talked about bringing that up today. So we'll dive into that a little bit more. But context has been really helpful because you're trying to pass information between
Yes.
all these different components. So you would
Yes.
pass it into the parent. Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, and it's totally scoped. So, like,
Yep.
now the accordion is like it abstracts that away. The context is gonna know all the stateful information
Yep.
about that avatar or that accordion, but then, like, all these specially named children
Yep.
are aware of that hook that the accordion
Yes.
provides, and that is really, I think, why those subcomponents exist
Yep.
rather than just, like, rendering children generally. It's so that they know about it's kinda like it's just like a higher order component, right? Like, back in the
Right.
day, you would have a higher order component that would give that function that would, like, expose the state of the thing. This is just a better way to encapsulate.
Yes, and I think I'm just double checking really quick, but I'm pretty sure when you use React context, it has to be a client side component. So that's like the one caveat
Oh.
with
Yes.
it is because you're usually including browser state, you're using use state and passing that on.
Yes.
So that's been like, "Oh, man, like, I don't feel like I'm getting the full features," but that's also created problems for us when you have these libraries that aren't necessarily thinking in terms of server components and client components.
Man, that's actually crazy that you bring server components back up because it has disappeared from my brain. Like,
Oh, really?
in a sense of that, I just don't think it will ever pick up full adoption.
Oh,
Don't get me wrong,
it's so
like,
good,
Parcel
though.
just put it out there.
Uh,
Parcel just put it out there, like, React Router just released a version with it in, but I just don't feel like even with it out there that it's gonna keep steamrolling forward. I don't
oh,
know.
it's
Like, I
so
just don't
good.
see it.
Like, once you use it, it's like, "This is the way. Mandalorian, this is the way," and I'm convinced here's my spicy take, right, is the libraries and authors that are like, "Not worth it," "Don't worry, nothing to see here," like, "Let's just go back to the way things are." It is hard. Yes, it's incredibly hard, it's incredibly difficult, but I think that's also their way of saying like, "Meh, not worth the trouble, keep moving on." It really is fantastic, though, when you're working with a good implementation of it.
Well, okay, like, let me put it like this. MCP got released, and within a week, like, Stripe, Jira, Linear, they all had their own MCP
Yeah.
servers. React server components have been in development and trying to get released for,
Yep.
like, 2 years. Stripe, let's say, hasn't released a React server component for checkout. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's why I'm
It's
saying
because
adoption
the
won't ever
implement
hit.
But it's because the implementation is so hard. Like, this is obviously, you have to have, like, framework authors driving this because if they're not have giving you, like, the tools that you need, you can't build with it. And it is
Yeah,
so hard. And then part of the problem is it's not just React Server components that you need because, Kent Dodds actually did a talk at React Conf that was like, "Hey, we're gonna put React Server components in our project in 15 minutes." And he, like, blew through it, but I was sitting on the sidelines and I'm like, the hard part about that is, yes, you can get React server components in 15 minutes, but you also need SSR and all these, like, you have to think about hydration and how does the flow of that work? And that's not the part that people talk about because
yeah,
that's all on the framework authors to
yeah,
write and create that part of technology. So it is so lovely though from a, like, authoring code perspective. Like, I can write code so fast and create
yeah.
applications so fast with React server components, and just, like, some of the patterns that we have now with Redwood SDK, like, it really is beautiful. So but okay, so talking about
Yeah, 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 we interrupt yeah,
provider yeah, you're
sidetrack.
good. Provider context, so that's one thing. The other
Mhm.
thing that was really interesting was, okay, so if you have a parent component, so say, for example, you wanna pass into that parent element's disabled. It should, like, disable all the buttons or, like, and you could put that in context, right? But is there another pattern that allows you to pass that on to a child without necessarily having to create context just for, say, a single property? And what you have to do, I didn't even know this was a thing, is there's an element called, clone element. Who would have thought? Clone element
Clone
within
element.
React. It's part of the React library. And what that does is you can say, I'm going to clone these children. And when I clone them, I'm going to inject or stuff all these props into them when I clone them. And so you're able to pass things down without having to rely on context.
Huh, okay, explain to me how that works, because you're making a copy of it, right? Or do you,
That's
like,
right.
replace children with a clone that you modified, or
Yeah, so there's a function called clone element. The first parameter you pass in is the child, and
Mhm.
it looks like looking at some of the, because again, like AI taught me this. I didn't even know. I was just like, asking it, is there another way to do this? And it looks like the second part is all the props that I want to send it when I pass, like hand it over to the, it's like an object. Yeah. And the type safety piece of it is React dot component props. And it's a type of the stuff that I passed in.
The
So
thing. Huh.
it's
I
all
guess
type
this is
safe
just
and
for
everything.
programmatically creating or programmatically, like, passing
Yeah.
children and props, kind of. Like,
Right.
so you don't have to do it declaratively, you could do it functionally.
Right. Well, like, so if you have a child, though, there's also a way to look at the payload to see what component is this.
Yeah.
Because if I have an avatar component with a fallback and a source as child components or whatnot, then I might not want to pass the same props to my fallback as I'm passing to the actual source image. And so you have to be able to check which component is this to be able to know what props to stuff into it. And so within the payload, you can check to see exactly which component it is.
I suppose I would have done
So
that with, like, a
crazy.
ternary as of today, like, or my
So
current
crazy.
way of thinking is just like, if these props or if this condition is true, render this with these props or that with those props. Is this like offer some advantage over that approach?
Yeah, I don't know in terms of like performance. I didn't go down that
Mm,
road. Uh, I mean, the other piece that was, like, really interesting with the avatar component was, like, so I'm working with the shad component avatar, and I'm like, "Why does this have to be a use client? This is so dumb. Why does it have to have browser support?" Well, if you want to say, "Here's a fallback," so maybe the image you
right,
passed into it is broken.
right.
It has to know, can this load on the browser? So it's having to do kind of like 2 checks. It's
Yeah.
having to check, like, can I get on the server and be able to render it? But then also, can I render it in the browser? Is there an issue when I'm trying to load it? And then there's also an issue with hydration. So I was having instances where it's like, yes, it would load on the server, but then when it would rehydrate, it would have problems. So I'm like, who knew an avatar component was so difficult? But you
Yeah.
can use like a use effect to just say handle load. Did it load when it was on the browser? And if it did, then just, move along or use the fallback instead. So, anyways, there's just some interesting things there that I'm like, I didn't know these things existed. Haven't even needed to reach for them yet. So,
Yeah. Yeah, you're getting into
kind of
framework
exciting.
author territory, aren't you, when you're using
Oh,
React
man.
APIs?
What's happening? What's
Yeah.
happening to me? Yeah, so we'll see. I'm gonna keep working on this one, and this one's more of, like, my own stuff, my own projects. I think, Build 12, I've had a few people ask me about it. I still am working on it kind of on the side. I haven't been talking about it quite as much because it's a little embarrassing. It's still I haven't released anything yet, but I'm moving a lot faster when I have those pieces, those elements in place, and I think Brad, you kind of alluded to that at the beginning of the year. If you will go all in on one framework or one library, get good at it, then you can move a lot faster than every single project trying to make a tech stack decision. That's kind of dumb. So this is part of building up that toolkit and that those libraries and things like that.
I wanna take a step back and go back to the React context discussion a
Okay.
little bit because I remember when context first came out and people were worried about the fact that it would re-render that entire subtree.
Mm,
And, anything you wrap in a provider,
yep.
and I'm like, "That's just how state works, right?" Um, and I find myself reaching for context a lot, especially, very localized context for custom componentry. We're redoing the side navigation, on Cloudflare's dashboard, and we had this situation where there's, like, multi-tiered collapsible menus. It's really nice, by the way, and if, like and we have this thing where you can, like, kind of collapse the sidebar and peek into it, it'll, like, come open and closed, and so every time you would, like, collapse the sidebar every time you'd collapse the sidebar, um, all those components would get unmounted, and they would lose their open or closed state, their expanded or
Mm,
collapsed state, and so we're like, "Well, we have to maintain this," and so a context was the perfect answer because we could just maintain a list of IDs of, like, "These ones are open."
mm,
And when you would render, and you're rendering like a group of routes, you would just say, "Is my ID in the list of IDs provided by the context? Yes, okay, then render my children." Um, so it became very centralized. All of like the rendered data that is dynamic lives in the context and the functions that mutate that. So your components get dumber, which is awesome because they're
Mhm.
easier to test and less dynamic. And then you could just write your business logic-y type tests in your context provider and just feel like it's a really good separation,
Yeah.
like how it should be. Because otherwise, you've got every component doing its own logic to figure out if I should show or hide my children or, whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, are you saving that list of IDs in somebody's, like, user profile so that when they log in, they have saved which ones are open and closed?
We are discussing that for future features, like just dropping that into local storage and being like, can we just save that? Or like, we are even talking about letting users order things however they wanted
Mm.
to. We do have
Mhm.
like a recents and shortcuts widget in the sidebar, but it's like, what if we just let people define their sidebar however they wanted
Yeah.
to? And you could save that.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Ugh,
Yeah, the
I love these
alternative
problems.
Yeah. The alternative to context was, like, Redux. That was our big, like, legacy data store,
So
and,
I've never done anything with Redux. I experimented with Vuex, which is Vuex, like, early thing that was comparable. I think now the main one they use is it Pina?
yeah, it sounds right.
Pin
Yeah.
okay. Like, to be careful how I pronounce that.
Yeah.
But
Redux
that's
is tough.
I mean, so part of it that was interesting to me at the time was you can, like, rewind to any point in time, right? So you
Yeah,
can
it's really
track.
nice. The dev tools are awesome.
Yeah. Uh, so you can, like, slowly step through state to know what is causing the problem if there is an issue. But it also I feel like so many people are like, "Ah, Redux, it's hard."
Well, it's because it's built on that reducer pattern, which
Mhm.
which is good and bad. It's very verbose because you have actions that occur that modify your state, and because of that, you can just replay an action at any given time to move forward or backwards in the state. That's how you got time travel debugging. But accessing the state is really interesting because Redux is generally one big store. I don't see a lot of uses for Redux like context where you make a bunch of small stateful stores. Redux
Mhm.
generally has one huge store. And in order to kind of react to that, you use a hook called use selector where you can reach into that store and pull out data and it will be reactive. I actually found like a deep-seated bug in the Cloudflare code base where we were relying on this method called like store, which is your Redux store, dot get state, which gives back a snapshot of your store. It's not reactive, but that function was being used in something called like use dashboard state. And so the name of the function made everybody think like, oh, this is gonna like be a hook that updates anytime the dashboard state changes. Well, no, because all that hook did was return a snapshot of the Redux store anytime that hook was called. So it's only by happenstance that you're getting the latest data. If a component renders calls use dashboard state, it was updating or giving you the latest data, but it was like on demand. And so I was doing some exploring and I put that in a use effect and just subscribed to the store changes and to have that hook like update and it, like, quadrupled the number of re-renders,
Oh my goodness.
which it's bad, but at the same time, it's like we're missing out on all these re-renders, like, we probably had stale data all over the app, and we didn't even know it because we
Hmm.
thought that hook was giving us the latest data, and it was updating when the state changed, and it actually wasn't. So,
Huh.
I'm trying to, like, write this novel about this problem and why we should change it, and like, it's a perceived performance decrease or actually, like, and it because it's an increase in render
Mm.
cycles. But my argument is we had stale data everywhere,
Mm.
and now
Mhm.
we're actually re-rendering when we should.
Oh, that's crazy.
Then we just need to pull in some use memos to, like, cut that down a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you used anything like XState before?
No, seems a little heavy-handed, if you ask me.
Okay. Okay, and then what about Zustard?
Zoo stand?
Oh, is that what it is?
Zustard? A zoo
I
stand.
always read
Yeah.
it as Zustard. It is an R. I mean an N instead of an R. That's hilarious.
I could just picture like a mustard bottle as
That's
the
what I
logo.
always thought. I thought it was mustard with a Z.
I hear zoo stand is great. I've never used it. Adam
Obviously,
Rackett
I've
was
never
just
have.
on Twitter preaching about it.
I thought it was Zustard. Oh my goodness. This is gonna be like my new meme.
It's your specificity.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
hilarious. So, if you were to create a new app, would you even reach for these state management pieces now that we have context?
I would use context for like UI state, is this thing opened, closed, whatever. And I would use probably like React query to like just cache the values that are coming from any API calls
Yeah,
that you're making. And
yeah,
that's pretty much it. Otherwise, it'd be server caching, CDN caching or
yeah,
whatnot.
yeah. Interesting. Oh man, that's so funny. I've always thought it was Zustard.
That is funny.
There is a thing called like, isn't there like cutting the mustard?
I've never heard of that.
What? Hold on. I thought that was a library. Oh man, I'm gonna have to look this up later. If you're in the chat and you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so cutting the mustard in JavaScript development refers to a technique where you have a JavaScript library framework that only runs in browsers that support certain modern features. So there was a term called cutting the mustard.
Huh. That's interesting.
But I don't I was looking, some of this stuff is like, I don't know, 10 years old. So
Yeah,
I'm
it
not
sounds like
sure.
back in the day when you would have to like make decisions about like what bundles you would send to which browsers
Yeah,
and they would get compiled into like different
I think that's
versions.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Why is it mustard? Because the JavaScript logo is yellow?
I don't
I don't
know.
know.
uh, we'll include some light reading in the show notes. Oh, funny. Okay, so this is kind of a shift or a pivot in the conversation. But you're just talking about like things being on fire versus having these lulls in work. And it's funny, it never seems like it's in the middle. It's either or.
Yeah, I like lately with the scenery change from Stripe to Cloudflare, I've just felt like I'm moving at 1,000 miles an hour. Like things
Mm,
are like the code is flying from my fingers. I understand the code base. I work well with the people. Like I can get things done. No matter
but
how
not being on
big
fire.
and not being on
Moving.
fire, but like being on fire, like doing well.
Excited. Yeah.
But I also, realized that even in the same job, like even back at Atlassian, I had times where I was like producing and producing and producing, or there's times where there's just lulls,
Mhm.
or the work you're doing like isn't as interesting. And I'm trying to think about, my career arc, or even if I was at the same job, how I could force myself into an on fire state rather than like these lull states, or how
Mhm.
do you get out of these lull states? And I've got some ideas, but first I kind of wanted to ask just like, do you feel like you're in a state where you're on fire, you're like performing really well at work, or do you feel like you're in a lull where things are slow?
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. I felt like I was being on fire. I just feel like says it's trouble. Excited. Like I was super excited before I went on vacation this summer
Yeah.
to the
Yes.
beach, and I got like a ton done the week before. And then I went to the beach and I was like super intentional about not pulling out my computer, which I mean, it's been a bad habit in the past because like when you are also like your hobby is also your job. That's kind of how I saw it in some cases. It was like I don't need to pull out my computer, but I want to code, I want to do stuff on the side and work on things that I can't normally work on. But I was very intentional about leaving my computer up, and then we came back from the beach, and it has been so hard for me to be motivated and just, like, crank out stuff like I was before.
Mm,
And some of it, I think, is also just knowing you can't live I don't think you can live at that speed forever. Um, and sometimes that's hard for me when people come to expect this super fast, super snappy, like, all the time, and it's like, I can't, like, I physically or mentally, I cannot deliver at that speed all the time. But I do love that flow state where you're excited to be cranking out work, and so I've actually spent quite a bit of time it's funny that you bring this up, the last couple weeks, even just, like, journaling. Why is this hard for me? How do I get over that? What is interesting? And it's pulled
yeah.
out some different things. Actually, I talked to ChatGPT about it because I was like, "Do you have here's some of the things that I are on my list. Here's some of the things that, like, I've been struggling to be motivated to do. Can you help me figure this out? Like, is this, self-destructive pattern or like, am I not is it not interesting enough? Where are all the things? And so that's been really helpful. But even within the past week or so, I've started to work on design stuff. We're reworking our branding, and that's been super fun. And I've just been able to get
Mhm.
in a flow state and crank things out. And so it's like, okay, this is the turning point for me. Um, to help me be productive and just crank stuff out because that stuff does feel good when you're in that state.
Yeah, there's a couple things I picked up on what you said. So, you mentioned, like, number 1, the work should be exciting,
Mhm.
and I think excitement also comes with change. So, like, if you
Yep.
finish a new project, pick pick up or if you finish a project, pick up the next project so that
Yep.
you're kind of like you're always feeling that momentum of moving forward.
Right.
Nothing is worse than, like, the last 20% of a project, right? That just
Right.
goes slow, slow, and it feels grindy. So, like,
Yep.
tee up the next thing so that you can transition out of one thing and into another.
Right.
Um, and I think the other thing is, like, you can't always work at a breakneck pace. I mean, at work, I stay, like, pretty focused and pretty, like, turned on all the time, but I've been doing a good job even though my brain is screaming at me like, "This work is so fun and interesting. Maybe you should
Mhm.
code," and it's 9 o'clock at night. I don't. I don't,
Yeah.
like, let myself do it, just so I can wake up in the morning, be excited to go back to my desk, because
Yep.
if you're always in that mode and you never turn off, inevitably, you're gonna get to a spot where, like, it becomes not as fun.
Yeah, for
And I
sure.
think the final thing is, like, I've been trying to write. I've been trying to, like, share, just like you did, like, you were
Mhm.
journaling and you were, like, talking to ChatGPT about it. My mantra now is more like, share what I'm learning, share what I'm seeing, and, like, share what I'm building internally at the company. If I can make
Mhm.
a paper trail that says, like, I fix cool or, like, I fix bugs, or I build features, or I learned this new thing, or here's my thoughts on this that could be better, like, I just become a like, number 1, an interesting person to talk to from,
Right.
like, everybody else's perspective, but also, like, I'm building up, like, my set of published opinions about my work.
Yep. Yep.
And unfortunately, it is locked behind, like, the company, bubble. I can't, like, I'm not servicing this stuff outside of Cloudflare, but I think it's really helpful to, like, keep your brain fresh and moving instead of just slowing down to a crawl and only thinking about the mechanics of doing the work and not, like, the larger
Right.
impact or whatnot.
Right. I think it was Seth Godin maybe. He wrote a book called The Practice. I think he talked about it in this book. If not, it was somebody else around the same time that that book was published. But they talked about flow state because I love flow state. It's like when you sit down at your desk and you look and you're like, "Oh goodness, it's lunch. I need to get food." Or you sit down and you're like, "Oh, it's like I should probably go take care of the kids or something like that. It's the end of the day."
Yeah.
Like, I love that feeling when you just get lost in time. But one of the things that it talked about, okay, so it's like, if that's the goal, how do you get there? And what's interesting about flow state from just the things that I've read is you can't be doing something that's incredibly challenging. Like the skill level has to be just right. It has to be,
Yeah.
yes, engaging, but not challenging because if you're trying to learn something new, your brain is working at a different speed than if you're just like, I know this and I'm just cranking it out. But it also can't be super easy. If it's easy, you kind of go on autopilot, you're bored, it's not interesting. And so a good chunk of flow state is getting in that just right Goldilocks phase so that you can do the work. So,
Yeah. And I've said this about Cloudflare. I feel like the company is the right size, going through the right
Mhm.
growing pains, where I've had enough experience where I can come in and be like, "I understand this problem.
Yeah.
Like, here's how we can combat this. Here's how we can make this
Yeah.
better." And so I've been challenged to drive solutions that are, like, within my abilities to
Yep.
do, and it's just, like, a perfect level where I can
Right.
just go and crank on it, get it done.
Yeah. But, I mean, like, I guess the point I'm trying to make is, like, yes, you can try and be in that flow state, but you can't, like, just camp out there because you do have to have tasks that are easier. You do have to learn new things, and so, um, anyways, it's just kinda interesting. I will throw this other little tidbit out. So I have a Aura Ring, and when I have hit flow state, it is fascinating to go in and look at the graphs to know what is my heart rate or my engagement, and usually it's in a very relaxed state. If I'm in flow state, it's incredibly relaxed, which I just think is interesting that it's like, yes, you can be working at a breakneck speed, but also just be in a comfortable level with your biometrics and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Um, let's see. Oh, we are almost see, look, this is a perfect we're in a
It's
flow state. I was
flying,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, goodness, it's like 15 minutes. We need to move into picks and plugs." But first, let's talk about, Remix V3. I haven't put a lot of thought into this other than it's on my radar, but I'm curious, have you tried out some of the new stuff that they've announced with React Router?
Uh,
Are you excited
no.
about Remix?
I
No?
haven't tried out any of the new React Router stuff. I'm actually holding off on updating to React Router because, like, Sentry still doesn't support it out of the
Mm.
box and stuff like that. So I'm in this weird holding pattern where I'm not gonna jump to React Router because Remix V3 is gonna come out, and it's probably gonna shake up a lot of things. And so I've seen some interesting tweets from Michael Jackson and Ryan Florence lately. Ryan Florence is building UI components for some reason, which is like, whoa.
Like
Didn't
me!
think that would be part of V3. Um, and then Michael Jackson is over here talking about, like, leaning hard into, like, the dropping React and no bundler and things like that. And so I'm trying to take a step back and be like, "Okay, what does this mean?" Because, like, no bundler and no, like, processing pipeline feels scary. That means, like, no TypeScript and no, like, you're not, bundling things, you're shipping ES modules. And so, okay, I'm like, in my head, it's probably gonna be ES module first, right? So, like, all native ESM. It's gonna be JavaScript, and they're probably gonna push, like, JS doc, types as comments type thing, or they'll be like, just run the type checker, out of your in some other script, basically, because 'cause you're not gonna need it to make a bundle. Um, and they said there's not gonna be React. And so I'm like, you have to support reactivity." So my guess is that they're gonna template with JSX, and they're gonna use signals, make their own kind of signals implementation or whatnot to do the reactivity. And so this is all, like, very vanilla, a couple libraries stitched together, but not like this big crazy virtual DOM thing. Like, there won't be a virtual DOM. Um, and then they're just gonna make, like, server-side utilities. Like, Michael Jackson was releasing a ton of stuff about, like, file uploads and streaming support and all this, and so I just have a feeling it's gonna be a very bare bones toolkit, and he's been bragging about it too. He's like, "You'll be amazed when you see V3. It's like one layer above the web APIs." And so, initially, I was, like, really taken aback, but now I'm formulating in my head, like, what it could be, and it doesn't feel bad. Like, it feels like it could be really easy to work with. No source mapping, no build errors. Like, you're running the code that you ship is crazy.
I don't know what to
I don't
think
know.
about it. It's like there's part of it that's really interesting, going back to the browser APIs and trying to be as native as possible. But then there's part of it, maybe that's just like the nostalgic old lady part of me that's like, I kind of love
Yeah,
React. Yeah, it's
I know.
quirky and we'll see. We'll see.
Here I am, like, dealing with all these frameworks, right? Like, I've been upgrading Remix and all this stuff for
Mhm.
years, just keeping up with it. And now I'm like, golly, I could just make a Vite React app with a Hano backend server,
Yeah.
and that's it. Like, you've got your front end, you've got your back end, you just consume it, and it's all client rendered, and
Yeah.
that was a really snappy way to do apps.
Yeah. Yeah. It is kind of funny just the things the way that we've abstracted and layered on and everything else. I don't
Yeah.
know, we'll see.
Yeah, and
We'll
it's easy to
see.
host too. If you have, like, it's that Hano API, you could throw that on a worker so easy. You don't need, like, a long running node server or anything, like, pretty nice.
So I'm just curious. I mean, obviously, I have no insight into any of these conversations, but if you're at Shopify, like, I just wonder what's their approach to what the Remix team is doing? It's like we've put Shopify features on Remix, and now you're saying we're gonna get rid of React altogether.
Well, I feel like Shopify is just gonna run on React Router forever. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Um, I would wouldn't assume that they would follow this V3 situation.
yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. See.
It's definitely
What
bare bones enough to be super flexible, but I don't think it's batteries included enough, I feel like, for Shopify to, like, put it into their hydrogen thing.
Yeah. I was gonna say Shopify's all Rails, right? So if Remix is there, it's more of a front end piece.
Shopify, like, in and of itself is Rails, like
Yeah.
the Shopify monolith, but,
Yeah.
I like the hydrogen websites that you can spin up, that's, like, their little framework thing that interacts with
Mhm.
the Shopify API. That, I believe, is all React Router Remix or something like that.
Okay. Okay, got it.
So, like,
Interesting.
customer sites, I guess, is what you'd call them.
Yeah. Yep, yep, yep. All right. Do you have anything else? Move. Okay,
No.
so for the next segment of the show, we'll move into our picks and plugs where we pick something that we like and we plug something generally that we've worked on. So do you have any picks and plugs for us?
It's been an exciting week. I finally found the Switch 2.
Dun,
I
dun,
feel
dun,
like I've
dun.
barely played it. Like, I've been working a lot lately, and, like, I've just been getting to the end of the day, and I go, "Eh," but got Mario Kart World on there, probably gonna pick up Donkey Kong here soon. Heard nothing but good things about that, but, like, it's nice, like, it runs everything better than the Switch 1 did. It is, like, really high quality, really nice screen despite it not being OLED. The whole, like, magnetic thing
Yeah.
is really cool. But I don't have a case for it. I don't have, like, anything else like that, so I haven't really taken it around. It's been sitting in the dock the whole time, but it's been fun. It's like we played a ton of Super Smash Brothers over the weekend, a lot of Mario Kart World, and it's just
Yeah.
been fun getting back into Nintendo games.
Super Smash Brothers, that's still the old version though, right?
It
It's
is,
not
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
okay.
but it's
Okay.
just, like, kind of revitalized my interest in Nintendo games. It was fun.
Have you guys gotten Mario Party with Jamboree?
Uh, yes, yeah, we picked up
Okay.
the latest Mario Party, and
Okay.
all we do is play mini games. That's all we do.
Yeah. That's how we do too. And the little dance party thing that they have. You have to do everything
Oh,
on
we
beat.
didn't even try that mode yet.
Oh, yeah, do that. That's fun.
Yeah? Okay.
It's fun.
Let's
It's
see, and then
awesome.
I'll plug the Cloudflare dashboard. So go to, I think it's dash.cloudflare.com. Go there, look at the, like, navigation on the left-hand side, and write down or just tweet me about what you hate about it because, we are launching internally, on July 31st, and then we're gonna start rolling it out to the world, after we go through its paces internally. And
Amazing.
I think it's much better, it looks way better, it functions much better. Um, but I wanna know if it solves the problem of, too many products, too big, hard to find things, you know? I know it doesn't put the project view out there yet, that's something we wanna get to, but it should at least make navigating the site a lot better.
Yeah.
But I wanna hear your
That's
feedback
my
and what sucks, and I
purpose.
wanna make sure we address it.
Sweet. Love it.
What do you got?
What do I got? I was trying to think. Oh, so here I'll pick this. I have been going back through the bullet journal method. I read this book like I
Cool.
don't know, 6 or 7 years ago and have been going back through it. So it's been fun because there are things that I forgot about. Just talking about productivity, but one of the things that it suggests I've done the last few days is just to write down everything that you do during the day. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. You don't have to put your thoughts around it, but you're just kind of tracking events. And so that's been really helpful for me when I get to the end of the day and I'm like, what did I even do today? Or just trying to remember what I did, 2 or 3 days ago, or what did I eat, that kind of thing. And so I have a record of all of that. So, anyways, we will see how long I'm able to keep that up. But I just love the simplicity of the bullet journal method. And as much as I love tech, just trying to bring a few things offline, make them analog so I can be more thoughtful about that. So bullet journaling is one of those things. And then I'm going to plug Build 12. So if you go to build12.com, the site is slightly out of date, but I'm going to start releasing content on there again. So check that out. You can sign up for newsletter. I'll explain some of the things that I'm learning, excuse me, like the React elements that we talked about today that I didn't know about before. So that's where I'll be sharing all those pieces of information as I'm working on those projects. So go check that out. It is build12spelledout.com. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. It's a little different. We've moved our recording day to Tuesday morning, so it's a little funny being here on a Thursday afternoon, but we appreciate you hanging out with us. And if you are listening on your podcatcher of choice after this has been released, please leave a rating and review. That's how other people find the show. That's how we get guests and sponsors and all the things. But until then, that's all we got.
Thank you.
Sweet. I'm just going to go ahead and call it. Thanks again for hanging out.
See you, chat.